Another video, and today we got our Week 10 college football top 25 rankings. I can't believe it's already Week 10. The season has flown by, but we're really getting to the end of the regular season here. We got like a month left. There's only like 4 or 5 games for some of these teams left. It is very sad, but it is also very exciting because that means playoffs are approaching very soon, and a lot of these playoff scenarios are going to be really heating up here in the next couple weeks. We still got a whole lot of great matchups, especially this week. There's a whole lot of great games. We got a lot to talk about from last week. But real quick, before I get into my top 25 teams, make sure you subscribe if you're new. Make sure you check out our college basketball videos. We've been previewing every Power 5 conference. We've done 3 of the 5, so we're going to have the other 2 later this week. So if that interests you, make sure you go down there, check those out, subscribe if you're new. We're also doing NFL content every week, NBA content every week as well. But let's go ahead and jump into number 25. It's going to be USC here. I've had them ranked a few times this season. They're coming off their bye, so it's not like they had an impressive win to bump them back in, but they kind of just come back in due to some of these teams on the low end of the top 25 last week losing. Arizona State dropped out, Illinois dropped out, LSU dropped out. They also fired Brian Kelly, which is crazy. So many midseason firings, and it's not even November. I mean, James Franklin at Penn State's gone, Brian Kelly at LSU, Billy Napier at Florida. It is just crazy how many of these coaches have gone down, and the buyout money that these schools are paying to get rid of them is just insane to me. But USC coming in with one of the best offenses in the country. I think that's very fair to say. Jaden Mayava has been amazing at quarterback, and receiving-wise, Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, one of the best 1-2 receiver duos in the country. I'd argue, and I think this USC offense is very solid. Going into Nebraska, though, it's going to be tough. Matt Rhule, we know how good he can be as a coach. In year 3, for a lot of programs, Baylor, he tends to take a step forward in year 3. It is his 3rd year with Nebraska. Could we see him going to Penn State? I've heard the rumors. We'll see about that. But as of right now, he's got a pretty solid team there with Dylan Raiola. I think Nebraska could very well make this interesting at home. I just don't know if they have the tools to compete with USC's offense. I think USC goes in there, wins the game 31-24. I like them to cover. They're favored by 6.5, so I have them covering. I think this is going to be a very good game, though. Nebraska's been ranked. They were ranked, I want to say last week or the year before, or not the year. Last week or the week before that, they were ranked at some point this season, and then they lost to Minnesota. But they won last week against Northwestern, so maybe if Nebraska wins this game, they'll probably be back in. This is a pretty big game for both these teams because Nebraska only has 2 losses. If Nebraska wins this game, there's a chance Nebraska could finish the season at 10-2, which is crazy. Same thing with USC. I know USC has Iowa on the schedule, which, by the way, Iowa right there for being ranked. I probably would have had them at 26. They also have on the road against Oregon, which is going to be tough, but they have the offense to compete. Like, this is a very under-the-radar playoff game because, both these teams only have 2 losses right now. So both these teams' playoff hopes are still alive, which is crazy because you wouldn't think that. But this is a big game right here. I think USC gets the win, though. I just love their offense too much. So I'm going to trust them. Utah, I'm going to have at 24. They're going to be back in the top 25. They went out against Colorado and blew the doors off of them 53-7. It was never in question. And I've heard some rumors Deion Sanders is on the hot seat. Is that crazy? I mean, that seems crazy to me. He was just, maybe. We'll end up seeing. I feel like he's recruiting too well to get rid of him. But then again, you never know with nowadays how fast some of these teams move on from their coaches. But Utah's going to be taking on Cincinnati at home. Cincinnati, by the way, very under the radar team. Nobody's talking about them. They're 7-1. This should be a very interesting game. I think Devin Dampier, the way he played against, the way he's played earlier in the season, I'm not sure if he'll be playing in this one. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup, banged up a lot. I don't think he played against Colorado, but they scored 53 points regardless. I think Utah gets the win at home. I think it's going to be a very close game. I don't think Utah will cover the 9.5. I think Cincinnati has a good shot to cover that one. I think this is going to be an offensive-style game. Again, I'm not sure if Devin Dampier will play. I think if he does play, I feel a whole lot better about Utah winning. But if he's not in there, I might end up going with Cincinnati here. But Utah, then again, very hard place to play, and it's going to be a late game, night game. So I like the home team here, but again, Cincinnati is a very sneaky team. They could for sure go in there and win this game. Number 23 is going to be Memphis. Memphis, now all of a sudden, are they the favorite to be the Group of 5 team in the playoffs? I think you'd have to say yes, right? They just beat South Florida. Now, these two teams could very well end up seeing each other in the American Conference Championship game, and that could essentially be a play-in for the playoffs. I could totally see that. But then you look at the American, it's a really strong conference this season. Navy's still undefeated, 7-0. I thought about ranking them. Tulane also still undefeated in conference. Right now, I'm talking about Memphis and South Florida. But Navy and Tulane are the top two teams in this conference right now. Memphis and South Florida both have conference losses. So I know Memphis gets Tulane and Navy on their schedule. I'm not sure if... Yeah, South Florida gets Navy, not Tulane. So, I'm assuming it'll work itself all out. But South Florida was that Group of 5 team all season. And now Memphis has kind of claimed that, which is exciting, man. They're 7-1. They've been really under the radar team. Brendan Lewis is their QB. He's been really solid all season. And yeah, Memphis, huge come from behind win against South Florida at home. It was a great game. I watched a good amount of this. And yeah, I mean, I thought UCF had it. I thought USF had it. I mean, they were up 31-17 going into the fourth quarter after the big 73-yard run to end the third quarter. It was a crazy play. But Memphis comes back. They score a touchdown. They hold USF, they force a punt, they score a field goal, they force a punt, and then they scored a touchdown to go up 3. I mean, it was a phenomenal fourth quarter. USF, I keep calling them UCF. USF also missed the game-winning field goal at the end. It was just a great win for Memphis, and I'm really impressed by them. So they're going to be at 23 here. Against Rice on the road, I think they should win. Maybe you could say they may have a little letdown spot. So I actually have Rice covering the 13.5. But I still think Memphis will win pretty easily here. Number 22 is going to be Houston. New to the rankings this year. Have not had Houston in here once. But you look at their schedule. Their only losses to Texas Tech, who's a team that I'm very high on. You look at the schedule. They blew out Oklahoma State. I know it was a close game with Arizona. Kind of close-ish game on the road against Arizona State, who is a solid team. I'll give them that. I had them ranked for a lot of the season. Connor Wigman, I don't know if you guys remember him. Believe he was the QB at Texas A&M before Marcel Reed. I'm gonna have to check that because, but he's been solid all year. I mean, obviously he's led them to a 7-1 start to the season, and I mean, Houston's rolling, man. They're one of the top teams in the Big 12 right now, which is crazy. I did not expect this at all for them. Against West Virginia, I think they should win, but that was a very impressive win going into ASU and winning like they did. I mean, a really good, really, really impressive win. They were up 24-0, by the way, in this one. It was a really impressive performance, so I have to give Houston their props. I got them at 22. Number 21 is going to be Texas. We got to talk about this. They survive again on the road against Mississippi State. Another overtime game, back-to-back ugly overtime wins. These are teams that they should be beating pretty easily. This is the number 1 preseason team. This is the team that I had ranked number 1 in the preseason as well. And they're just struggling with Kentucky and Mississippi State. They have already 2 losses, so they're in must-win mode. I'm going to say it. I don't think Texas gets into the playoffs this year. I just don't see it. They still have Vandy, Georgia, and A&M. The Georgia game's on the road. I don't see a world where they win all 3 of those games because that's what people are saying. They're saying if you get to 3 losses, you're not making the playoffs. And I would probably agree. I don't see a world where Texas gets in as a 9-3. Maybe if there's some crazy chaos. But then again, has Texas been impressive enough to get in at 9-3? I wouldn't say so. So, Arch Manning had the little concussion. I think he's in concussion protocol, I want to say, at the end of that game. So we'll see if he even plays for Vanderbilt or for the Vanderbilt game. If he doesn't, I mean, does it really change that much? Is that crazy? I mean, Matthew Caldwell has come in a couple times this season, and he's been throwing pretty nice-looking throws. So maybe it might be better for Texas if Matthew Caldwell plays, which is a crazy conversation to have. Obviously, they're going to probably play Arch if he's healthy. And Arch did throw for 346 yards in this one. But the fact they had to come back to Mississippi State, they had to rely on like a punt return late in the game to bring them back in. Like, it was 38-21 with like 7-8 minutes left in this game, and Texas was down 17, and they find a way to win. I think this Vanderbilt game is going to be a whole lot more low scoring. I think Texas is going to really try to limit Vanderbilt. I hate doing this because Texas doesn't look great. Vanderbilt is so exciting, so fun. But I feel like I have to go Texas here. They're in a must-win mode. They need this win. I think they'll get it. I'm going to trust their defense to shut down Vanderbilt's offense and Diego Pavia. But then again, I feel like I keep picking against Vanderbilt, and they continue to prove me wrong. I really don't like picking Texas here because they've looked so bad all season. I know they're only 6-2, but the expectations were so high coming in. Man, if they win that Florida game, they could be 7-1 right now. That the conversations may be a little different. Because even if they're struggling, if they're 7-1, they have a lot more room for error. But sitting at 6-2, they're in must win. I think they get the win over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has played a lot of close games. They didn't look all that impressive against Missouri. I'll kind of get to that. But so I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to trust their defense to make enough plays. I think Colin Simmons may have a big day. But I don't feel great about it. Vandy could for sure go in and prove me wrong once again. Number 20 is where I'm going to have Missouri. Shout out to Missouri. They kept it close, even though Bo Pribula got injured. He's now out for the year, so I would assume Missouri is probably done, which is unfortunate because this was a team that was going to be a sneaky playoff team. Like, if they win that Vanderbilt game, there's a very real chance. I mean, they would be 7-1 right now. Their tough games would be A&M and Oklahoma. If they could have found a way to split those, get in as 10-2, I mean, there was a chance they could have done it. But now with no Bo Pribula, he's out for the season. I don't really see a world where they get into the playoffs. Like I said, they're going to have to win out, and one of those games is against Texas A&M, who looks like an absolute force right now. And then, tough game on the road against Arkansas. Very tough game on the road against Oklahoma. Mississippi State's not an easy team to beat. We just saw Texas struggle with them. Probably should have lost to them. So I think Missouri, unfortunately, is probably done. I love Ahmad Hardy, though. Like, he's the best running back in the country. Probably him or Jeremiah Love. But it is unfortunate that Missouri's season had to end like this. Maybe they don't. Maybe they prove me wrong, but I don't know. Bo Pribula being out, I think that really hurts them. Obviously, you never want to lose your starting QB. They are on bye this week, so they'll have time to figure it out with the backup for that A&M game. That's going to be a very tough game, though. But yeah, they kept it close against Vanderbilt without Bo Pribula, which I guess is promising. It was on the road too, so I guess that's at least something to be a little excited about. Number 19 is where I'm going to have Michigan. I'm starting to worry about Michigan a little. As many of you may know, I'm an Ohio State fan. I feel like I say this every video, but I just want to let you guys know if you're new. And Michigan is starting to look like the teams of the past. Last year they were obviously horrible. Ohio State loses that game. It was terrible. I don't want to talk about it at all. I think the past few years you could definitely say, well, Michigan was the better team. They deserved to win. Last year, Ohio State was clearly the better team, and they still lost. So I'm not going to talk about that game. This year, though, I think Ohio State is pretty clearly the better team. And I really hope Ohio State figures it out because they need to. But Michigan is starting to look like those teams of the past that were just better than Ohio State. What I'm referencing, like the 2021 team, the 22 team, the 23 team. Like those Michigan teams you could say were just better than Ohio State those years. And this Michigan team is starting to play like that. They're holding off on the blitzes, which is what they did a lot early in the season. They're holding off on the blitzes. They're letting their defense play, and it's looked a lot better. They held Washington to 7 points. They held MSU. I know it says 20, but it was really less than that because MSU had the late touchdown. It's also a rivalry game, and they dominated that whole game. The running game is looking very reminiscent of their past like RB duos they've had with whoever it's been. Hassan Haskins. I mean, was Kalel Mullings last year? Like Blake Corum, obviously Donovan Edwards. Those two. Like the guys that they got going in this MSU game, they were running the ball. They were really looking like the Michigan of the past. Justice Haynes is an absolute force, and Jordan Marshall was also over 100 yards. They ran the ball 49 times in this game for 276 yards, 5.6 yards a carry as a team. 4 total rushing touchdowns. Bryce Underwood only had 86 passing yards, but he didn't need to. Now, I hope Ohio State's defense is good enough to stop the Michigan run game. But even if they're not, I feel like Ohio State's defense is good enough to get stops. I feel like Michigan is going to have to throw the ball at least some against Ohio State. So maybe I'm just coping. We're obviously going to see. I feel like both these teams are just circling that game, just staring it down, because it is a pretty easy path for both of these teams until that game. And Michigan, there's a good chance they enter that game 9-2 with playoff implications, playoff hopes on the line in Ann Arbor. It's going to be a great game. Against Purdue, I think they should be able to win. Michigan is playing very good right now. I think they're going to continue to roll. And like I said, I think there's very, very realistic. I'd probably predict them entering that Ohio State game at 9-2. Number 18 is going to be where I have Louisville. They're going to stay put where they're at. Honestly, I kind of wanted to move them ahead of Virginia. I just can't because Virginia beat them, and it was in Louisville. But Louisville, they have the road win against Miami. That looks really solid. They're 6-1 right now. The ACC is just chaos right now, man. I don't know who's going to make the conference championship game, which is what I like. I always love chaos. This week against Virginia Tech, favored by 10.5. Virginia Tech's kind of a tough place to play. I think they'll cover. I think Louisville is just a much better team here. I think Miller Moss really gets it going. The offense looks really solid. They put up 38 points last week. Granted, Boston College is the worst team in the ACC. But Louisville looks like a really, really solid team. I think there's a good chance they could finish the season. I don't know if they finish the season 11-1. I don't know if they get through this unscathed. But there's a good chance they finish 10-2. And is that going to be enough to make the playoffs? That's going to be a conversation. It's going to depend on how good Virginia looks, because that's going to be obviously one of their losses, and it's going to depend on who else they lose to. Because I'd assume, the schedule's not really that challenging. And they're going to have the road win against Miami, which is going to look really nice. We'll see with Louisville. They're going to be a sneaky team to watch here. Watch out for them, because if they keep winning, they're going to continue to move up. And I think they will win this week. Number 17, the aforementioned Virginia. This is now the 4th week in a row they've won by 1 score. And, man, I worry about Virginia, man. I love Chandler Morris. I think he's a great QB. He's so fun to watch. I love this Virginia team. They're very fun to watch. But 3 of their last 4 games being one score wins. 3 of those games, all 4 of their last 4 games being 1 score wins. 3 of them needing overtime. 1 of them needing double overtime. I worry, when is the fatigue going to kick in? When is some of these plays not going to go their way? When is, if they keep playing it close to the edge, where are they going to eventually fall? I'm very worried about Virginia. They have some tough games. They have some tricky games here at Cal. That's a far travel. Cal's not a bad team, 5-3. Worry about that one. Wake Forest 5-2, not a bad team. Duke 4-3 on the road. That could be a little tricky. And then Virginia Tech, that's going to be a rivalry game. I'm worried about Virginia. I don't think they get through the regular season unscathed. I think it comes this week. I think Cal beats them. Virginia only favored by 3.5. That's kind of a small line for the team that's ranked 15, by the way, in the AP poll, playing an unranked team. So I think that goes to show you that they think it's going to be a tricky one for Virginia. It's, like I said, very far travel, and Virginia's been playing too close to the edge for me to like them. You can't ignore that. They were a play away from losing to UNC, who has been very bad this season. UNC is 2-5. And again, Washington State, not a great team either. The Florida State and the Louisville ones are fine because those are both. Well, Florida State was really good at the time. Louisville, good team on the road. Those can be excused. But the past 2 weeks, I don't know if I like that a lot. So I think Virginia loses this week, unfortunately. But we'll end up seeing maybe they can just continue to play it close to the line and keep winning. I don't know. I think they lose those. 16. It's going to be Cincinnati. They're moving up 8 spots. This is quite a bit of a jump, but I feel like I was just, in general, too low on Cincinnati. I got to give them their props. They're 5-0 in the Big 12, 7-1 on the season. Their only loss was to Nebraska, who is a solid team. Like I said, I think they're, 6-2? Nebraska, if they went out 10-2 Nebraska, they could maybe beat a playoff team. It's a huge game for them though against USC this week. But since then, Cincinnati beat Iowa State, solid win. They just blew out Baylor, who is a really solid team with a very capable offense, very experienced team. But this is really the bulk of Cincinnati's schedule here. They got Utah on the road. They got BYU coming up. TCU on the road. That one's going to be a little tricky. This week against Utah favored by 9.5. I don't think I can ignore that. I'm going to take Utah at home. It's one of the hardest places to play. The hardest place to play, in my opinion, in the conference of the Big 12. It's going to be a night game. It's going to be a very hard environment there. But I love what Brennan Sorsby has been able to do for this Bearcats team. I just don't know if they have enough to go into Utah and take down Kyle Whittingham. I want to say game days there as well, so it's going to be a great environment. But I have them moving up 8 spots. I feel like I was too low on the Bearcats. I'm giving them their props, but I don't think they win this week, unfortunately. I think Utah really gets it going and finds a way to win that one. Oklahoma moving down 6. They lose to Ole Miss. It was a great game. You know, Ole Miss kind of controlled that game. They looked like the better team for the majority of it, but Oklahoma never really went away. Like, Ole Miss got up 22-10, and Oklahoma clawed back, eventually making it 26-25 in their favor. So they went from down 12 to up 1 going into the fourth quarter, but then Ole Miss does score in the fourth quarter to go up 31-26. And then it was an Oklahoma punt, it was an Oklahoma turnover on downs, and then Oklahoma, I believe, what was it? They just ran out of time at the end. Like, it was a rough fourth quarter for Oklahoma, obviously not scoring any points. It's kind of the reverse of what Ole Miss did the previous week against Georgia, where they didn't score any points. Now they hold the team to not scoring any points in the fourth quarter. But yeah, like I said, Oklahoma clawed back. They showed some fight. I like to see that, but unfortunately, Oklahoma with one more loss is probably going to get knocked out of the playoffs. And now, Oklahoma is kind of like the only team where if they go 9-3, they could get in. Just because look at the schedule, it's ridiculous. So I guess there's hope. If they go 9-3, they could maybe still get in, but it is a long shot. And looking at the schedule, man, at Tennessee and at Alabama, they do get a bye in between those two games, but that is brutal. Not to mention Missouri, LSU Missouri's still ranked, and LSU has the talent to be ranked. They should, they shouldn't be ranked, but, if they were playing to their expectations, they'd be like a top 10, top 5 team right now. So this is a very tough four-game stretch here for Oklahoma, but we knew this coming in. We knew their schedule was going to be an absolute gauntlet. But they're 6-2 right now. I don't know. John Mateer, ever since he's had the hand injury, he doesn't look all as, I don't want to say reckless, but you get where I'm going. Like, he doesn't look all as much as confident in his body as he was before the injury. I'm assuming, like, he still has the confidence, but you get what I'm saying. He's not putting his body on the line. At least that's what it looks like to me, which is fair. I mean, I think, I don't know if he knows how much his hand can handle and take. This week against Tennessee is going to be a tough spot. They do say defense travels, so it could be interesting, but it's going to be a night game in Neyland. I don't love that. I think Tennessee's offense does enough. If you want to beat Tennessee, you got to score a lot of points. Oklahoma's going to try to limit that because they have one of the best defenses in the country. Brent Venables there always has a great defense. But I think Tennessee just scores too much for Oklahoma in this one. I think Tennessee wins 31-27. I have Tennessee covering. Don't love that it's a night game in Neyland. If this was in Norman, maybe you can convince me Oklahoma wins. But I feel like it's just ultimately a bad matchup for Oklahoma. Now, if their defense does travel and shuts down this Tennessee offense, which, kind of looks impossible right now because they just score 40 points every game, it looks like. But I don't know, man. I think Oklahoma might be done, which is sad because there was a time where they were like a top 5 team in my rankings. If John Mateer's healthy for that Texas game, man, they could be 7-1 right now. They could be in a whole lot different of a situation, but I'm worried about Oklahoma, man. I think they might lose this week, which would, like I said, probably knock them out of the playoffs. 14 is going to be where I have Tennessee. You just saw the score. I think Tennessee beats Oklahoma at home. I think they have enough. I think their offense does enough. Joey Aguilar, man, look at the point totals for Tennessee. Besides the Alabama game, they don't have a game under 30 points. They don't have a game under 34 points. If you look at besides Arkansas and Alabama, every other game they've scored over 40 points. They have 3 games above 55 points. Like, it is ridiculous. They just score at will. And Kentucky didn't even have that bad of a game. Tennessee just scored 56 points. Like, what are you going to do? That's kind of what I think it's going to be with Oklahoma. I just think Tennessee's going to score too much. This is an elimination game for the playoffs. Both these teams sitting at 2 losses. It's going to be a huge spot. The fact that it's in Neyland at night, though, I give the slight edge to Tennessee. And if Tennessee wins this game, they're sitting at 7-2. These last 3 games don't look too difficult. I know at Florida, Tennessee hasn't won at Florida in a long time, and Vanderbilt is a top 10 team in the AP poll right now. But, like, these next 3 games, if they beat Oklahoma, these next 3 games are very winnable. Tennessee could sneak into the playoffs there at 10-2. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. I think they win this week against Oklahoma and put themselves in a really good spot to do so. Texas Tech is going to be at 13. They win 42-0 against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has been blown out by pretty much every team in the Big 12, so that's not too much of an impressive score. I'm worried about Texas Tech, though, just off the fact Will Hammond now out for the season. We've seen Baron Morton, their starting quarterback, get banged up. He's missed a few games. Will Hammond's had to step in, and now him being out for the season. If Baron Morton goes down again, who's going to come in for Texas Tech? That does worry me. If Baron Morton didn't have the injury history he had this season, then I wouldn't really care that the backup quarterback gets injured. Obviously, I care. I don't want to make that sound bad. I want him to be healthy. I'm hoping for a speedy recovery. But you get what I'm saying. Like, if Baron Morton was just maybe miss 1 game and then the backup does what he does out for the season, then he comes back in the next week, you're like, okay, they should be fine. But the fact that Baron Morton's missed multiple games at different spots in the season, it's kind of been all over the place. He's been like in and out of the lineup. Will Hammond's had to step in a bunch, and now losing him, I think that might hurt this team. Because if Baron Morton goes down again, who's going to step in? So I think that does worry me. Also, injuries on the D-line. Like, Texas Tech's dealing with a lot of big injuries. That their D tackle they lost, what's his name? His name's Skyler something. Like, this is that's a big injury. Skylar Gill-Howard, there it is. I was trying to figure it out. But he's like the leader on that D-line there, the big D tackle in the middle. He's out for, I want to say, until the start of the playoffs if they end up getting there. So those are 2 pretty big losses for Texas Tech. I think against Kansas State, I think they win. I think they should be able to cover. They're only favored by 7.5, though. I think Baron Morton's playing. If he plays, I think Texas Tech should have a pretty easy time covering this one. But if he doesn't, then maybe Kansas State can cover. I think I heard that he's playing, so I'll give them the win. But they got a huge game against BYU coming up. That's a top 15 game right there. Really good stuff for the Big 12, and that's next week. So that's going to be a huge spot right there. We're definitely going to break that down when the time comes next week. Number 12 is going to be Vandy. Staying where they're at. I know they're staying where they're at. You're like, what? How are they not moving up? They beat Missouri, ranked team. But they didn't look, I don't know. They didn't look too impressive to me. Is that fair? Like, Bo Prabula goes down and Vandy only wins 17-10. They had 136 rushing yards, but a lot of that was just the one big play. Like, besides that, they couldn't really run the ball. Diego Pavia only threw for 129 yards. He only completed 10 passes. 0 touchdowns to 1 pick. Like, it wasn't a great Pavia game. Ahmad Hardy had a solid game. He ran for 97 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. But is it crazy to say that I don't think Vandy was all that impressive in this one? It was 3-3 at halftime. It was just kind of an ugly game altogether. Like, there was interceptions, there was turnovers on downs. The whole almost the first half was just filled with punts. Like, they would get the ball a couple plays, punt, then it would be a 3-and-out punt, a couple plays, punt, 3-and-out punt. Like, it was kind of an ugly start. It was a slow, boring game. None of these teams could really get it going. But Vandy did have that big play, the big 80-yard run there in the third quarter, and that kind of turned the tide in the game. Missouri did respond to make it 10-10, which was pretty impressive. But after that, Missouri had the fumble, then Vandy gets the touchdown to kind of ice the game. So Vandy wins. They hang on. They move to 7-1. But like I said, at Texas, I'm worried. I don't think they have the talent to compete. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Diego Pavia proves me wrong once again. I want to say I picked LSU to beat Vandy. I think I picked Vandy to beat Missouri, which was good. Um, so, again, maybe Vandy proves me wrong, but at Texas in a must-win spot, Vandy not necessarily in a must-win spot. But if Vandy wins this game, moves to 8-1, I think we're seeing Vandy in the playoffs because I think Vandy is going to beat Auburn and Kentucky. And if they beat Texas, they would be 10-1 entering the Tennessee game. If they lose that game, 10-2 Vandy, you better believe they're getting in. So this is kind of a must-win game for Vandy. I guess not necessarily, not as much as a must-win for Texas, which is why I'm going to give the edge to Texas here, and I think Texas will win. But if Vandy wins this game, they're, in my opinion, like very close to being a lock to get into the playoffs, which is crazy. I want to see them get in the playoffs. I'm rooting for Vandy, I promise. Number 11 is going to be Georgia. Or, not Georgia. Georgia Tech. Sorry about that. They win against Syracuse 41-16. Pretty impressive game here. Haynes King continues to do Haynes King things. That kind of rhymed there. That was pretty nice. But yeah, I'm worried. I worry about his health, man. That's really what it comes down to. So I have him at 11 here. The AP poll has them at 8, which I think is fair. I mean, they're 8-0. You could say I'm too low on Georgia Tech, but look at their schedule. They haven't really beat anyone, and some of these games have been close. So Georgia Tech, I'm liking what I'm seeing at NC State. It's going to be a tough game, a little road game, 5.5 favorite, only by 5.5. I got Georgia Tech covering that. I think they will win that one. It opened at 6.5, so a lot of money's coming in on NC State, which is interesting. I think Georgia Tech wins. I'm worried though that they're going to slip up. Do they slip up against Pitt? They definitely don't against Boston College because they're terrible. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's the NC State game they slip up because I've been saying it. I feel like Georgia Tech is due to slip up at least one time, but maybe not. Maybe they just run the table and head into Georgia at 11-0, which would be insane, by the way. And last year, they weren't as good as they are this year. And last year, they took Georgia to 8 overtimes. Haynes King got the team on his back. Maybe he can do it again here. Is it much better? Maybe they win this time. Who knows? Maybe Georgia Tech finishes the regular season 12-0. Could you imagine? We have Indiana undefeated at the end of the regular season. We have Georgia Tech undefeated. Imagine if Vandy wins out. I mean, this is shaping up to be a college football season for the ages, and I'm here for it, man. Number 10 is going to be BYU, man. I'm in on BYU. I'll say it right now. I'm in on BYU. I've been out on BYU all year. I didn't rank them till 2 weeks ago. I was late to rank them. Then they beat Utah. I picked Utah to beat them, and I was like, all right, BYU, I'm going to bump them up a little bit. I picked Iowa State to beat them. I thought, all right, coming off the big, emotional Holy War game, Holy War win against Utah, close game, physical game, at Iowa State. Iowa State's a good team. They were ranked for a lot of the season. Rocco Becht, I love him. I think Iowa State gets them. Maybe looking ahead to Texas Tech. I know they're on bye right now. But they went into Iowa State and looked really impressive. Bear Bachmeier is one of the most fun players in college football right now. He is so fun to watch. He looks so veteran out there, and he's a true freshman, which is crazy. So BYU, their coach, he knows how to win games. He's one of the most underrated coaches, in my opinion, in the country. I think BYU at 8-0, they're in a great spot right now. They do have some tough games coming up, though. Texas Tech on the road, 7-1 team. TCU 6-2. Cincinnati on the road, 7-1 team. This next three stretch, I've been saying it, but I said these 5 games are going to be where we really see if BYU's made for it. And so far, 2 of the 5 games down, they've looked pretty good, man. And they get a bye this week, which I think is huge, to get an extra week to prepare for Texas Tech, who is dealing with a lot of injuries, like I mentioned. So BYU could very well go into Texas Tech and win that game. And if they do, sitting at 9-0, I mean, they're already in the driver's seat of the Big 12. But if they go out and beat Texas Tech, which is who I think I would give the best team in the Big 12 to right now, but if they go into Texas Tech and win that game, BYU is by far the best team in the Big 12, and definitely in the driver's seat, which they kind of already are right now. So BYU controls their own destiny for sure. And then that Cincinnati game, those are their 2 biggest contenders for in the Big 12 right now, I'd say. Cincinnati and Texas Tech. Cincinnati still undefeated in Big 12 conference play. Texas Tech at 4-1. So yeah, that's going to be a huge game. But to get the bye week to prepare, so no prediction there. Notre Dame at number 9. I know you guys can call me crazy. Oh, how do you have Notre Dame ahead of Georgia Tech? They're undefeated. How do you have Notre Dame ahead of BYU? They're undefeated. How do you have Notre Dame ahead of Vanderbilt? They're 7-1. They have so many great SEC wins. Just watch a Notre Dame game. I mean, that's all I gotta say. If you watch Notre Dame play, you cannot tell me they are not a top 10 team. Notre Dame is, in my opinion, as an Ohio State fan, I said this last week, Oregon was the team I am the most afraid of. I think the next team that I would be most afraid of, besides, like, you could say Indiana, or, Indiana's number 2. So I might give Indiana the edge. Honestly, I think Oregon might still be number 1, but I think Indiana would be 2. But the next team I'd be most afraid of is this Notre Dame team. Look at the running back room on this team. Like, this is by far the best running backs in the country, in my opinion. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. Just ridiculous numbers these two are putting up. And their defense, they gave up 41 points to Texas A&M, which is a game, by the way. Texas A&M, undefeated in the SEC, number 1 team in the SEC right now in my rankings, and I think most people would agree with that with the way they looked against LSU. I've heard people saying Texas A&M is the most complete team in the country right now. Notre Dame lost that game by 1 point on a botched extra point. Like, they were right there for that game. They could have very well won that game. And then the Miami game, that was a back and forth game in Miami, by the way, and they lost by 3 points. Like, these are 2 top 10 teams they lost to, and I know I've been saying that those 2 losses are great. Obviously, you would like to have won those, but since then, their defense has been top 15 in scoring defense in the country. Their defense has improved dramatically, and same thing with the offense. CJ Carr looks better and better every week. Obviously, the running backs, like I said, best RBs in the country, in my opinion. So I think Notre Dame is pretty much a lock to get into the playoffs. I think they're going to win out all their games, 10-2, Notre Dame. They're going to be a tough team. You do not want to see this. If Notre Dame gets in as like an 11, 10, 9 seed, you do not want to have to play Notre Dame in the first round. I promise you that. Marcus Freeman knows what he's doing. They got in last season as a 7 seed. They took down Georgia. They took down Penn State. They got to the national championship game after losing to Northern Illinois, by the way. It's not like they have a loss like that in the schedule this year. So I think Notre Dame is just fine. This week against Boston College, I think they go in there, blow them out. Yeah, Boston College is not great. I have them covering 28.5, by the way. Boston College, 1-7 team. Don't think they're going to contain Notre Dame's anything at all. Miami at 8. I'm going to not move them up. I'm going to keep them where they're at. Miami, they don't look great against Louisville, obviously. What was it, 4 picks for Carson Beck in that game? I think it was 4, which is insane, by the way. He was the Heisman frontrunner like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So those 4 quarters weren't great. And the first half against Stanford, they weren't great either. Like, we're starting to see some of these lows with Miami, which I was saying, this whole season. Well, Miami, last year's Miami team, they had all the potential in the world with Cam Ward, but they had a lot of holes, and they were, a very beatable team. This year, though, they didn't look as beatable, but now these past 2 games, I can't say that. They look kind of beatable, so Miami's going to be a little bit lower than they have been the majority of this season. I mean, 7-7 at halftime against Stanford. I know they ended up winning 42-7. They looked a lot better in the second half, and that was just a lot of because Stanford was just throwing interceptions to them left and right. But Stanford scored the first points in this game. Stanford was up 7-0 at one point in this game. For a lot of this game, by the way. Miami didn't score till later in the second quarter, which is insane. They were down 7-0 until a minute left in the second quarter. Think about that. To Stanford, 3-5 Stanford. Don't love that. So Miami, I'm getting a little worried about. Against SMU, this is kind of a get-right spot, hopefully. SMU is a solid team, though, 5-3 on the road. I'll take Miami to win. I have them covering. I think Miami's got something to prove a little bit. I hope it's not just they're just not going to fall off, which would be very unfortunate because they've been one of the best teams all season. I don't know if I see that. I think this Miami team's too good on the lines of scrimmages to do that. I think they'll win against SMU. I have them covering. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about Miami. Oregon at 7. I'm going to move them down one. I'm not too worried. I know they just didn't look great against Wisconsin. 21-7 win. This is a Wisconsin team Ohio State just beat 34-0. They're lucky Wisconsin has like the worst offense I've ever seen because Oregon did not look great offensively. Dante Moore had 86 passing yards. I know they got it going on the ground. Noah Whittington 97 yards. Jordan Davison 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. I will say Wisconsin has a solid defense. They 34 points to Ohio State. It's not terrible. Teams have given up a lot more than that this season. So Wisconsin's defense is not bad, but 21-7. You would like Oregon as a top. They're ranked 6th in the AP poll, so a top 6 team in the AP poll. You'd like them to handle Wisconsin a little bit better. It was kind of an ugly game, but they got the win. And I compared Oregon last week to the Ohio State team where Ohio State lost to Oregon. They lost to Michigan. But going into the playoffs, they learned from those losses, and they end up going on an insane run, just running through everyone, playing to their full potential in the playoffs and winning it all. I've compared this Oregon team, to last year's Ohio State team where they lose to Indiana. This is a game that a lot of people thought Oregon would win. They lose to Indiana. I don't know if they lose a game. They have some tough games left, so maybe they do. But if they get into the playoffs, Dan Lanning is going to coach these guys and fix these mistakes. That is the type of coach he is. He wants to be absolutely perfect, and he wants to fix any area of weakness he can. So I really like this Oregon team just because of Dan Lanning. I mean, well, not just because of Dan Lanning, but he is a pretty big, contributor to why I like them so much. At Iowa's going to be a tough game, though. Iowa's, like I said, they're probably my number 26 team. Iowa is a team that one of their losses is a 5-point loss to Indiana where, they were, 13-13 with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Indiana's the consensus number 2 team. And Iowa's only other loss is a road game against Iowa State, 3-point loss to their biggest rival. And Iowa State's not bad either. Iowa's a solid team, man. So this is going to be a tough game. Kinnick is, what they say. They say this is where good teams go to die. So maybe this is the game Oregon drops. I don't know. We're not going to have a prediction, but that game's going to be very interesting to keep our eyes on next week. Number 6 is going to be Ole Miss. I'm going to have them jump Oregon. I think you could argue they should have beat Georgia. If they would have went into Georgia, imagine Ole Miss is 8-0 right now with a win over LSU, with a win on the road against Georgia, with a win on the road against Oklahoma. Ole Miss, if they hang on to that Georgia game, man. Obviously they didn't, so I can't rank them ahead of Georgia. But Ole Miss, man, is essentially a lock for the playoffs. I think these top 7 teams, maybe the top 8 teams, but I don't know if Miami's a lock with the way they're playing. Notre Dame, honestly, might be a lock, too. I don't know. The playoff spots are starting to be claimed. I feel like Ole Miss is pretty much a lock, though. Look at the schedule. It is very winnable. I think Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Now, there's a lot of rumors where he's going to go next year. Is it going to be LSU? Obviously, LSU is going to call him. Florida, definitely going to give him a call. So we'll see where he ends up going. But this season, he's going to have a playoff team. Trinidad Chambliss and Lane Kiffin's play calling, it's just a match made in heaven. It is beautiful to watch sometimes. I think Ole Miss is a great team. I have them beating South Carolina, no problems. I have them covering. I know South Carolina just gave Alabama a run for their money. We'll talk about that in a second. But I like Ole Miss a lot here, man. I got them at number 6. Number 5 is going to be where I have Georgia. They're coming off the bye, the big win against Ole Miss. Their only loss is to Alabama right now. And, yeah, I think Georgia's a great team. If they could just figure out a way to start games better, because they just start games asleep. If they could just start games better, man, this team would be so good. They'd probably be undefeated right now. If they started better against Alabama, I think you could argue they could have won that game. But yeah, Gunnar Stockton is just a fighter, man. This whole team just doesn't quit. They're so hard to beat because of that. But on the road, well, I guess it's not on the road. It's a neutral site against Florida. Really big rivalry spot. Florida just fired Billy Napier. And we've seen teams where they fire their coach and they get big upset wins. So maybe we'll see that with Florida. Georgia's favored by 7.5. Florida has all the talent in the world. You hear coaches talk about it. Every coach, when you mention Florida, says, "Oh yeah, they got a very talented team." Like if Florida could just put it together, this team could be so good. So I don't think Georgia's going to take this game lightly with all the athletes Florida has with the big rivalry that it is. So I think Georgia wins. I've seen a lot of people saying Florida's going to cover. I actually have Georgia covering. I might switch that because 7.5 is kind of a lot for this game. But Georgia, so hard to beat. I think Georgia wins. Obviously, I don't know if they cover 7.5. I could see it being 28-21, something like that. But yeah, I think Georgia does get this win here. Number 4 is going to be Alabama, moving down 1. I had them ranked 3 last week after they just went on a crazy stretch, beating Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, and Tennessee all in a row. But then they go into South Carolina and kind of have a wake-up call. They almost lost this game. If Shane Beamer decides to go for 2 there, South Carolina could have been up 9 points. I don't know why he didn't. I just don't understand it. They're up 7. If you kick the extra point, it's an 8-point game, and it's still a 1-score game. If you go for 2, it's a 9-point game, 2-score game, and if you don't get it, it's still a 7-point game. Alabama would not go for 2 there. Alabama would not put their season on the line of a 2-point conversion there. They would definitely kick it, take it to overtime. But Shane Beamer does what he does. He doesn't go for 2. I didn't understand that at all. And then obviously South Carolina had the fumble. Alabama, I don't want to say they got lucky, but they got kind of lucky in this one to get the win here. So they survive. They continue to roll. They're 7-1. Ty Simpson looks amazing, obviously, and I'm liking Alabama, man. But if they could just get a run game, man, I say the same thing every week, but it is really just that. But Alabama, pretty, I think there's a good chance they win out. LSU doesn't look great. I think they win that game at home. Oklahoma could be tough, but they also get that one at home. At Auburn will be a little tricky, but I think Alabama is basically a lock for the playoffs at this point. They're on bye this week, so no prediction there. Number 3 is going to be Texas A&M, man. They go into LSU. Night game. This is what LSU fans and most people around the country would agree. One of the hardest, if not the hardest place to play, especially at night. And they walk in there when 49-25. LSU was winning at halftime, but it never crossed my mind that LSU was the better team. I was watching this game in the first half, and LSU had, A&M had a drive. They were about to score. LSU got a pick, or Marcel Reed threw a pick. He had 2 interceptions, I think, in the first half. Marcel Reed, that is. He didn't play great. LSU also had a safety. LSU was getting a whole lot of, lucky things go their way. I mean, there were good plays, but LSU was getting a lot of breaks, and they were up 18-14 at the half. But A&M went in there in the second half and just laid the hammer on them. I mean, it was 14-18 going into halftime, and there was a point in this game where it was 49-18. A&M scored 35 unanswered points, and then LSU scored the touchdown late, but it didn't matter. A&M just went into LSU at night, just blew the doors off of them, and got their head coach fired. A&M looks like a legit team. I think Marcel Reed might win the Heisman. Is that crazy to say? I know people are saying Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson's been in there. Marcel Reed could very well do it. He's definitely going to be a finalist if they keep this up, and I think A&M might be the most complete team in the country. They've shown all season they can win in a majority of different ways. They can win running the ball. Marcel Reed is just a dual threat QB, which is very hard to contain. And the defense has looked very solid at certain points in the season. So I think A&M's in a great spot. They're playing Missouri, but honestly, Missouri's not that interesting without Bo Pribula. I'm sorry, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. Maybe they can prove me wrong. But you look at this A&M schedule, I mean, they're basically a lock in my eyes to make the playoffs. I mean, there's no way they lose 3 of these last 4. One of them is against Samford. That's a free win. South Carolina, they should win. Even if they lose to Missouri and Texas, they're going to get in at 10-2. I mean, no doubt about it. So A&M is basically a lock for the playoffs in my eyes. Same thing with Indiana. I don't see them losing. I think there's a good chance. I think there's a 95% chance they go into the Big Ten championship game, maybe even higher. at 12-0, and Indiana. Maybe they're not the most fun team to watch, but like they're so fundamentally sound. They don't really get penalties on them. They looked so well coached, and Kurt Cignetti, shout out to him because he has just turned this program around like that. I mean, it's crazy what he's done. That Indiana is the number 2 team in the country. Never thought I'd be saying that, but here we are. This is by the way, in this UCLA game, I picked UCLA to cover this one. Indiana wins by 50 points. Like, Fernando Mendoza is playing lights out. He's going to be probably a top 15 NFL draft pick. That's how good he's playing, and he might win the Heisman as well. Indiana looks like a ridiculous force. They win at the lines of scrimmage. Elijah Surratt, one of the best receivers in the country. Fernando Mendoza, I've already given him his flowers. Their run game looks really solid. The defense looks like one of the best in the country as well. What's their corner's name? Pons. He's amazing. They got guys at all 3 levels of the defense. The only thing I worry about with Indiana is when they play a team. I know they played Oregon on the road, and Oregon is much more talented than Indiana. I think Indiana fans would agree with that. Oregon just has the better recruits. They have more money, so they can get better recruits, and they have a more talented roster, at least objectively. Now, I know Indiana went into Oregon, by the way, very hard place to play, one of the hardest places to play, and they won that game handedly. But I worry about their depth when they get into a game where they are really challenged. When they play a team that has much more talent than them. Like, if Indiana, God forbid, deals with some bad injuries, they lose somebody, like, I worry about the depth and, who can replace them. Because I love the guys they have in right now, but if they start to get banged up a little, I worry about the depth. That's the only thing I can say. But besides that, Indiana, for sure, consensus number 2 team in my eyes right now. I think the top 3 are pretty consensus, the top 3. This week against Maryland, I think Indiana will win. I'm done picking Indiana to not cover. I'll take Indiana to cover here, the 22.5. And the number 1 is going to be Ohio State still. They have the best unit in the country. The Ohio State defense is the best unit in the country. And the offense, man, the run game, we've seen flashes at times that be good. I'd like it to be a little more consistent. But, Arvo Reese is going to be, he's being mocked right now as a top 10 NFL draft pick. They have Sonny Styles on the other side, the best linebacker duo in the country. Can't tell me otherwise. Caleb Downs might still be the best defensive player in the country. And then offensively, Julian Sain is just playing lights out football. Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate, best receiver duo in the country as well. The O-line, D-line, everything's just clicking for Ohio State. This week against Penn State, like I said, when a team fires their coach, maybe they could get a spark here. But then again, I mean, they fired James Franklin after the Northwestern loss, and they still lost to Iowa. So Penn State also coming off their bye, so maybe they had some time to prepare. But it's a backup QB in. Penn State still does have some NFL draft picks, like they still have the talent, but it's also in Columbus. Like, I don't see Ohio State losing this one. 20.5-point favorites. I'll take Ohio State. I'll take Ohio State to cover. I just don't see Penn State scoring on this team, in all honesty. But that is going to do it for the Week 10 College Football Top 25 rankings. Make sure you go down to the comment section. Comment down below what you think, what you agree, what you disagree about, my rankings. What do you have as your rankings? Who do you like as your, national championship pick? Who do you think could be a sneaky playoff team? Who do you think could be, really just anything? Just go down there, comment, and I'd love to talk to you guys down there. But that's going to do it. Like I said, like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new. And yeah, we're going to wrap this up. I'll see you guys tomorrow with our Week 9 NFL game predictions. And then later in the week, we'll also do our our last 2 college basketball season previews. So expect that for the rest of this week. But once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another NFL video.